Robert Adams on Self-Inquiry from David Goldman. This morning, when I checked the comments on this blog, I found one asking me to explain self-inquiry. I felt I have done this many times already, so instead I'm going to pass the bucket back to the Robert Adams, an American devotee of Bhagavan who lived at Ramana's ashram from 1947-1950. For those who know little of nothing about him, I'll first give a summary on his own words of his early life and the story of how he came to Bhagavan. Both of these accounts came from public satsang he gave in US in 1990. Robert, I usually do not talk about myself, but I received an interesting phone call from a lady in Pennsylvania. She said, Robert, if you do not say something about yourself, nobody will know where you're coming from. They will think you got this information from a book or from another teacher. They will not know that is coming directly from the self. So I thought about this and decided that for a few minutes I will discuss my life up to the age of 14 years old. That should bore you enough. I was born in January 21st in Manhattan, New York. From the very beginning, as far back as I can remember, when I was in my crib, a little man with a gray beard and white hair used to appear before me at the other end of the crib, about 2 feet tall. You speak gibberish to me. I thought this was normal, and everybody had this experience. Of course, being a child, I didn't understand anything he said. It was only in my later years, when I started to read books, that I realized this person was Sri Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. He appeared before me until I was about 7 years old, and then he stopped. And then something very interesting happened to me. Whether I wanted something, a candy bar or a toy, I would say God's name 3 or 4 times, and it would appear from some place. For instance, if I want a candy bar, I would say, God, God, God. Somebody would bring it to me, or it would came from some place. When I went to school, I never used to study. When I had a test, I would say, God, 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 and then answers would come. Once I wanted to play the violin, and my mother told me that it would be too hard for me to play, so she wouldn't buy me one. So I said, God, 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 and a few hours later, my uncle appeared, who I hadn't seen him about 5 years, and he bought me a violin. He thought I needed a violin. This went on and on while I was going to school. When I was 14 years old, a strange phenomenon happened. It was the end of the term, and we were taking our final tests. This was a math test. I never studied for it, so I didn't know anything. I said, God, God, God. An instant of the answers coming. The room became filled with light, a bright, bright light, 1,000 times more bright than the sun. It was like an atomic bomb. The light from the bomb, but it was not a burning light. It was a beautiful, bright, shining, warm glow. Just thinking of it now make me stop and wonder. The whole room was immersed in the light, everybody, everything. All of the children seemed to be myriad of the light particles. And then I found myself melting into radiant being, into consciousness. I merged into the consciousness. It was not an out-of-body experience. An out-of-body experience is when your soul leaves your body. This was completely different. I realized that I was not my body. What appeared to me to be my body was not real. I went beyond the light into pure, radiant consciousness. I became omnipresent. My individuality had merged into pure, absolute bliss. I explained, I became the universe. The feeling is incredible. It was total bliss, total joy. The next thing I remember was the teacher shaking me. All the students has gone. I was the only one left in the class. The teacher was shaking me, and I returned to the human consciousness. That feeling has never left me. The second story, also narrated by Robert, covers some of the same ground and then continues the story up to the time he ended up with Bhagavan at Ramana Ashram. Question: Robert, have you always had this realization? Robert: I guess. There is no telling. People have asked me about this, so I will tell you a little bit about it. When I was a child in a crib, a little man used to be on the other side. For a long period, I would lie there and he would be talking to me from the edge of the crib. And of course, being a baby, I didn't know what he was talking about. As far as I know, he was talking to me ever since I was born. I couldn't understand what he was saying. I used to believe everybody had that experience. When I was about 5 or 6 years old, I told my parents about it, and they told I was playing games. I told my friends, and they laughed at me, so I stopped saying anything about it. The visitors stopped when I was about 7. My father died, and all of a sudden, a little man stopped coming to me. When I asked my mother, Then I asked my mother, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. I didn't understand what I was saying, but I felt that I was out of place. My mother thought I was crazy, and so did a lot of other people. She took me to the doctor, and the doctor told her it would go away. When I was going to school, I never really fit in because I was always daydreaming. I had strange experience. I used to sit in the class and become swallowed up in consciousness. I became omnipresent. I had out-of-body experiences. I just merged into consciousness. I couldn't understand what was happening. Then, when I was about 14 years old, I went to a library to do a book report. I passed the philosophy section and saw a book on yoga masters. I didn't even know what that meant at the time. I opened the book to a page, and there was a picture of Ramana Maharshi. My hair stood on end because it was the same person who appeared to me when I was a baby in my crib. Since then, I have never been the same. Question: This is what led you to Ramana Maharshi? Robert: Later on, yes. I actually went to the Self-Realization Fellowship and Kinidas. I went to see Brahmama Yogananda. I was initiated and was going to become a monk. But after Yogananda talked to me, he said, Robert, you don't belong here. You've got your own path. Go to India. So I did. I went to the Ramana ashram. It was 1947 or 1948. I confirmed my feelings. Ever since I was born, I had never believed I was a body. I went back to school and made believe I was normal, whatever that is. Question. When you first saw Ramana Maharishi, did he remind you of the person you had communicated with as a baby? Robert, definitely yes. Question. Did you speak of this later with him? Robert, no, I never did. We just smiled at each other. I had some personal conversation with him, but even at the end of 1947, he was sick. He couldn't walk very well and had to be assisted by his devotees. He had a cane. He could hardly walk. I usually never go into these things because, number one, it can really help you, and pause. I forget what number two is. Laughter. In the following talk, which also comes from 1990, Robert Adams refers to 4 principles. This is a reference to an early satsang in which he recounted a vision he had in which he found himself giving a Dharma talk to some Buddhists. He said that he found himself expounding on these 4 principles in the vision. Robert, good evening. It is good to see you again, whoever is here again. Please do not be shocked at some of the things I may say. I am not a teacher. I am not a lecturer. I am not a minister. I am merely a looking glass so that you can see your own reflection. What you think of yourself, you see in me. I may say certain things you are not used to. Bear with me. You should not accept anything I say, or should you believe anything I say, until you be able to prove it to yourself. I simply give my confession that I am not the body, nor the mind, nor the phenomenal world, that I am pure intelligence, absolute reality, Satchit Ananda, divine mind, unborn emptiness. When I use the word I am not referring to Robert. I'm referring to I am that I am, omnipresent, the infinite. I get lost of phone calls from people. I get lost of lots of phone calls from people asking me all kinds of questions. One question that most people keep asking again and again is, what can I do to resolve my problems? Can you give me an affirmation, a mantra, a meditation, a breathing exercise, something I can use? These things have their place, but they will not waken you to your true self. In all of the higher scripture, it is written that the path of Advaita, Vedanta, or Jnana Marga is only for mature souls. Now, what does that mean? It is for those who, in a previous life, have already practiced sadhana, breathing exercise, yoga technique, and now they are ready to awaken through this type of teaching. And the Buddhist script declares that those who want to go to do yoga or breathing exercise are the simple-minded and ignorant. Now, what do they mean? They don't mean to insult you, but they are referring to those who are attached to the world, those who believe the world is real and who feel the pull of the world. They want to use all kinds of gimmicks to free themselves from their problems, but not to be totally free. Now, what does Jana Marga teach? We do simply this: not to accept anything unless you can demonstrate it, not to believe anything unless you can use it for yourself, and you can see it's true. To do affirmation mantras, yoga exercise, and so forth will not waken you. You start from the beginning. You simply admit to yourself that you exist. This is the truth. You do exist, don't you? So you say to yourself, I exist. I know that for sure. I exist. I exist. That's all I know. I'm ignorant of anything else, but I do know that I exist because here I am. Then, as you keep saying this to yourself, I exist, you begin to put more space between I and exist. I exist. Say that to yourself, to yourselves. I exist. I exist. If you're doing this correct, you'll soon find that I and exist are two separate words. In other words, you would come to the conclusion that you exist as I. You will have to ask yourself, ponder, who is this I that exists? What is I? You never answer. It will come to you of its own accord. When you sleep and you awaken, you say, I slept. Then you dream. When you dream, you say, I had a dream. And when you are awake, of course you say, I am awake. But that I is always there. You start to inquiry within yourself. What is this I that exists at all times? It exists when I'm asleep, while I'm awake, when I dream. Who is this I? And now the inquiry starts. Where does this I come from? From hence cometh the I. You ask yourself. The answers are within yourself, and you keep asking yourself over and over and over again. Where does the I come from? Or who am I? And you wait a little while and you repeat the same question. Where does the I come from? While you're doing that, you follow the I deep within. You keep following the I. You go deeper and deeper into the I. Where does this I come from? Where is this I? Whatever answer come to you is the wrong answer. Do not accept it, but do not deny it. You simply put it aside. And you continue with the self-inquiry. Who am I? And you wait. And you ask again, who am I? It is not a mantra. Where did the I come from? How did it get there? Who gave it birth? What is the source of the I? You continue to abide in the I. As you continue this process, someday something will happen. To some people, It comes like an explosion within, where all your thoughts are wiped away. For you see, I is the first pronoun, and every thought that you have in the world is attached to the I. They are secondary. Think about that. Whatever you have to say about yourself has an I in it. Everything in the world is about yourself. I'm going to the movies. I'm going bowling. I feel like crying. I feel terrible. I feel wonderful. I feel sick. I feel well. There's always an I. What is this I? And what is it all about? Everything is attached to the I. Subsequently, when the I is wiped away, everything else is wiped out, and the troubles are over. All the thoughts go with the I. Now, there's no answer to who am I? When you get to the answer, there will be emptiness, a void. You will be of the unborn. But it is not a void like you think. It is not emptiness like you think. For want for a better word, you can call it godliness, nirvana, Satchit Ananda, bliss, consciousness, absolute reality. It doesn't matter what name you give it, you will become that. And there will be no explanation. You will just become that. And you will feel a profound peace that you have never felt before. You will feel a bliss that is unqualified. You will try to explain it to yourself and to your friends, but you cannot. For the finite cannot comprehend the infinite. There are no words. That's the method you use, self-inquiry. You follow the I through to its source. How long does it take? It depends on yourself. How sincere are you? What else you're doing with your life? If you are using this like you do everything else. For instance, if you say, well, today I'm going to practice the I, then I'm going to go to the movie, then I'm going to go bowling, then I'm going to watch TV, then tomorrow I'll do it the same thing. That's going to happen in a case like that. What's going to happen in a case like that? Very little. But if you put your energy into it and you practice it every chance you get and you put it this first in your life, you will see amazing result. Amazing result. But you have to put it first in your life. Think right now. What is first in your life? Don't tell me, but just think. What comes first in your life? Can you take it with you when you die? Don't you see by now what you live in a world of constant change? That the only thing permanent is life, in life is change. All facts change. Only truth is real, and truth is personal. You have to find it for yourself. A sincere devotee or student will put this first in their life, and then he or she will start seeing results. But if you're still worrying and fearing something, and you think other duties come first, then you got to work on yourself. That's why this great compassion. That's why with this great compassion, I give you certain things you can do before you get into self-realization. Just before you become self-realized, you begin to feel certain things. And those are 4 principles I gave you last week. They come to you automatically. But as I mentioned last Sunday and Thursday, you have to, upon awakening, become aware of those principles. You cannot think of them as you leisure, but you sort of have to coax the mind to think upon the 4 principles as soon as you open your eyes in the morning. So you have 2 things to do. When you open your eyes, you can either ask yourself, where did the I come from? How am I that sleep? Who am I that slept last night? Who am I that was just awaked? Who am I that exists now? Or you can think about the 4 principles, whatever is convenient for you. But if your self-realization and you want to become free, and you want to be free from the ocean of samsara, worldliness, you become blissful, then it is up to you. I can share those things with you, but I can make you do them. It's just like I can bring you to the gold mine, but you got to do your own digging. I can bring you to the gold mine, but you've got to do your own digging. What comes first in your life again? Whatever comes first in your life, that's what you become. In the end, you are going to have to leave your body, your thoughts, your possessions, your loved ones. Everything is going to be left in the end. So the wise person searches for the truth now and try to become free now. The 4 principles that Robert referred to are: 1. You have a feeling, a complete understanding that everything you see, everything in the universe, in the world, emanates from your mind. 2. You have to have a strong feeling, a deep realization that you are unborn. You are not born. You do not experience a life, and you do not disappear. You do not die. You are aware, and you have a deep understanding of the egolessness of all things, that everything has no ego. You have a deep conviction, a deep understanding, a deep feeling of that self-realization of noble wisdom really is. As soon as you open your eyes in the morning, I'll speak in the first person, you have to say to yourself, I feel and realize and understand that everything, say everything twice, is a projection of my mind. And think about what that means. Forget about the order, the other 3. Work on that. Everything. I feel that, I realize that, I understand that everything is projection of my mind. And then you may think of the problems you have, if you have any, and you say to yourself, if everything is projection of my mind, where do these problems come from? You then realize why they come from me. I projected them, I created them. And then you say, who is this I that created them? See, now you're getting to the substance. Who is the I that created all this illusion in my life? Where did the I come from? Who gave it birth? My mind? Where did my mind come from? The I? Where they are both, why they're both the same? The I and the mind are the same. And it's all a revelation. You think along these lines. Where does the mind / I come from? And to whom does it come? And you follow it deep within yourself. If you do it correctly, you will realize there is no I, there is no mind, so there are no problems, and it will be over, and you will start laughing. You will realize you will actually start laughing at yourself. You'll say, to think, I feared this and I feared that. And once you get into the consciousness, something will happen to actually physically relieve you from the problems or what you think is a problem. As long as you believe in your mind that there is a problem, whatever it's a little or big, doesn't matter. They're both the same. But as long as you believe you've got a problem, you will have a problem, and it will grow. You won't be able to change it. It may appear that you change it, but when you try to work with the problem itself, it turns into something else of worse nature. Never try to work with the problem. Ask instead where the problem come from. How did I get it? How did I get this birth? Where did it come from? That's the problem. The births, the problem. Because you believe you were born, you have the problem, and you can go on and on and on. That's how you work with the principles. Everything, I feel and understand that everything is projection, a manifestation of my mind. Whose mind? My mind. Whose my? Mine. My? I? Am I? Who am I? Who am I? Who has this problem? And as you ask yourself this question, you begin to feel better and better and better. You will actually begin to feel better. And as you feel better, the problem becomes less and less important, and it will vanish. This is great psychotherapy. It works. If doctors give this to a patient, they wouldn't have to give them any drugs. So you understand, you feel that everything is an emanation of your mind, or it wouldn't exist. All existence, from the smallest atom to the greatest cosmic galaxy, it all comes out of your mind. But even if I tell you this, you still feel that something is real, don't you? You feel that something is real. You may say, the sun is real. You may say, well, God is real. You may say, an atom is real. But you do not comprehend that you are creating those things. You are all a projection of, they are all a projection of your mind. If you didn't have a mind, you would not have these concepts. That's why we are told to annihilate the mind, to kill the mind. No mind, no concepts. All these ideas came as you begin to realize that everything is a projection of your mind.